Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous. As today we resume Crusading in earnest. I was originally thinking about going back to the Midnight Isles, knocking out another few islands, just doing kind of a highlight reel thing. But then, while I was prepping to record, I actually realized we still have several locations around the map we haven't actually cleared. I mean, granted, they're mostly ingredient nodes, not exactly a big deal, but we do need to clear those at some point. And we have one notable location all the way down south, the Befouled Barrow, which I remember making note of, but I guess we never got around to. It also turns out that when we stopped last time, we stopped just shy of knocking out the last couple of demon armies in Act 3. So, yeah, I think we've actually got enough non-Midnight Isles content to keep us busy today. And as an added bonus, that'll also advance the clock a bit, so hopefully we can get the next story event triggered. Not necessarily the end of Act 3, but there are still several companion events we haven't triggered yet. Let's see how this goes. Forgot to close all the pet tabs. I was just doing some re-equipping. Oh, right. Bribery recharged. No big deal. Moving on. Alright, let's clear out these last couple of armies. They do outrank us, but that doesn't really take into account how much of an equalizer caster generals can be. Meriliths are the biggest threat. Let's freeze them out. Oh, they survived. Yeah, okay, that wasn't too bad. Baylors are out. And that's the Meriliths. Now we just whittle down this infantry as it very slowly approaches. The cultists are our next priority. A single channel could wipe our entire army. Nice. Almost done. But this will take a moment. And we're done. Nice and clean. Minimal casualties. The Balor at the head of an army has been killed. The horde of his slaves either perished or scattered. The fate of this mighty tyrant became an object lesson to all the denizens of the World Wound, and how dangerous it is to challenge the Crusade commander. Daily income increased by 500. Not too shabby. Oh hey, look at that. We also pulled a level up. Well, that's even better. Not much point in boosting Infirmary. We automatically increase that every time we gain a level. We also picked up Slow, but let's be honest, we're never going to use that. So it really comes down to offense versus defense. And I feel like we're doing okay on staying power. It's really just the low damage output on some of our units that's kind of a problem now. We'll grab offense training. Alright, one more to go. Oof. Mass innervation. That's not great. But it's our general who's doing the heavy lifting, so we'll stay the course. Let's nuke bottom right. Nice. Half their army wiped. And that's the Glabrizu. We'll just ignore the summon. Once the Brawlachite drops, we win. We win! Despite their paucity of numbers, the gangs of demons gave the Crusaders a tough fight. In the skirmish, they resembled more a tight-knit squad than a marauding gang of raiders. An old map of Sarkarus found on a victim's body was immediately turned over to the commander. Perhaps those demons were performing an important search or reconnaissance mission for their masters. Come what may, their mission failed. Which nets us an ancient map of Sarkarus. Interesting. I'll set that aside for the reader, but we do need to do that soon. At this point, I think we've got like 10 items in the queue to go over. So, you know, maybe in another episode or two. I just want to make sure we get some action in first. And that's it. Aside from randomly spawning armies, which we will still have to deal with, that should be all of the enemy emplacements for Act 3. Meanwhile, back at the party... Nice, nice. Marked rock. This moldy rock resembles a bald head, though it is marred by a crude rune, scratched into its surface. Neat. We'll take our edible moss, our flour, and so forth, and be on our way. The Branch of the Last Ash. A detachment of valiant aristocrats will proudly accept the commander's nightly mission of seeking out and possessing the Branch of the Last Ash, the location of which is shown on the map, captured from the demons. Really? You know, I don't remember seeing this in my other game that managed to get to Act 4, my Bardzada. Huh. I wonder if that's new content, or just maybe something that bugged out. My Bardzada was right after the game came out. I am very curious to see what that leads to. Also, Seelah wants to talk. I assume that's the next stage of her companion quest, so the plan is working. We'll check that out once we're done out here. Oh, right, I'm not even on the world map. Now we're on the world map. Yeah, we're almost done. We'll just hit these 3, then we'll head back. There is one more ingredient node way west of here, out near where Agaboya was fighting. But we'll worry about that one later. Honestly, might not even hit it till Act 5 when we have an excuse to build a teleportal out there. Okay, let's get some rest real quick. We're pushing exhaustion. Setup's fine, but we do now have access to mythic potions. So let's get some of those going.
You feel the pull of your heritage. It beckons to you, but take my advice. Resist its call. You will find no happiness among demons.
Oh yeah, just like rich folk always told me there's more to life than money. It's all do as I say, not as I do, Woljif, with you lot.
Oh, Woljif. What are we gonna do with you, buddy? Aha! Thank goodness we just rested. Otherwise, this might have been awkward. Ash Giant, Arachnid Devastator. That's not too bad.
Cover me, all right? Can't you just die already?
Arachnid's out. I've got to say, sometimes Woljif really makes me want to hurl.
Out of my sight!
Ash Giant's no big deal. That's like 5th level stuff. It's the threats we're not seeing that we need to worry about. Hi there. Vex, you want to maybe move, or... Hey, there we go. Bit of an odd glitch there. It wouldn't let me just click on the giant to move and attack. I had to manually move and then attack once I was close enough. But no big deal. We still got it done. And done is done. Ooh, or maybe not.
I will resist.
Okay, now we're done. Not much in the way of loot, but I think we pulled about 500 XP. Moving on. New reinforcements available. But as usual, I'll handle that off-screen. We're pretty much done with any major fighting until Act 5 anyway. Befouled Barrows. The bones of chiefs, sages, and other esteemed residents of the old Sarkarus had lain in these gloomy barrows for centuries. Yet in their hatred of mortals, demons wouldn't let the dead rest in peace. Having desecrated their graves, they defaced the ancient bones and scattered them all over the place, soaking them in the blood of their own descendants. Delightful. Iridescent streaks appear in the bilious violet sky above the deserted lands. The streaks are not like an ordinary Galarian rainbow. They look more like oil dropped in water. The sweltering haze in the sky seems to waver along with the streaks. Time and again, the commander's party spots some movement out of the corner of their eye and reaches for their weapon, only to immediately realize they were mistaken. The ground underfoot turns muddy gray, covered in a dense layer of ash expelled by geysers. Curious natural phenomena not uncommon in these parts. In the distance, barrows can be seen, appearing only as vague piles of rocks in the haze. The wind whips clouds of ashes in the faces of the commander and his party. Along with the ash, the wind ushers in ragged gray clouds that shroud the sky. A giant eye of cloud unblinkingly watches the commander and his party from above. One can only imagine how insignificant the creatures struggling across the land must seem from such a height. In a break in the clouds, the white of the sky's eye pulses, ready to burst like a boil. The dark cloud of the pupil grows blacker still. The commander decides to study the shape of the clouds more closely. Arushale observes that in this wind, the ordinary storm clouds cannot coalesce into clear shapes. The air throbs with peril. This is no mere storm. What's brewing is something brought by the abyss, and possible only in the wound. The commander tries to recall any previous mention of such a phenomenon. Darren recalls conversations with seasoned crusaders. If a giant eye appears in the sky, you must run and not look back. According to witnesses, what follows such an omen is so horrific that it can rob a newcomer to the world wound of their sanity. Oh, good. Well, I think we should make for the barrows. The only cover in the middle of these wastes. I was wondering how they were going to work the barrows into all of this. Living creatures can be beaten, but one cannot conquer a force of nature. The commander decides to run for cover. The party manages to reach the barrows before the storm swells to its full force. Something suddenly drops from the sky, landing with a splat at the commander's feet like an overripe fruit. It is white, about the size of a chestnut. It has a dark center, and the longer the commander stares at it, the more it seems like something is staring back. The fruit looks disturbingly like an eyeball. The whirlwind of ash stops the party from looking up to see what is happening in the sky. Perhaps a carrion bird was transporting its already rotting prize home. At least that's what all the companions are hoping as they cluster around the milky white eyeball. A second eyeball lands nearby with an unpleasant squelch, leaving only a bloody splash on the ash-covered ground. Two eyeballs cannot be a coincidence. The looming rocky ledges, which give the barrow the appearance of a hill, look like they could come crashing down on the party's head at any moment. However, they do offer protection from the storm. The horrific hail misses the party almost entirely, and the eyeballs land around them in a wet cacophony. Yeah, I'm not really liking the optics on this one. The land around the barrows looks more like a dumping ground than a burial ground, The storms have bleached skulls and bones, rusted armor, and dented swords. This is a familiar sight. More surprising are the arms and legs of golems scattered around the waste, the once snarling faces of animals that now lack all resemblance to their living brethren, things that look like horse carcasses but with broken mechanical legs. Everything is brown with rust and long forgotten. A battle was fought here once. Through the veil of ash, the party struggles to find the entrance to the barrow. And Vex hastily feels along the walls. Vex taps on the rock to test its solidity, trying to find a weak point, a crevice, or a door. Victory smiles on him. The next strike is answered with a ringing of iron. The ash-darkened piece of metal that covers the entrance crumbles under Vex's attack. The mouth of the barrow is cool and smells of damp and dust. More of the ash lies underfoot, pressed into a glossy, slippery crust. It is clear that the barrow has been constructed above a cave system. The deliberately carved-out corridors stretching off into the barrow's depths leave room for natural passageways. The wind, wailing through the stalactites in the dark, carries a strange sound similar to a desperate human cry. "Help me! Help me!" The party strains to hear, and decides to find out who the voices belong to. The longer Vex listens, the more the voice changes. One moment it sounds like the desperate cry of a child. The next, the piercing, ragged scream of a woman. The next, birdsong. It cannot be ruled out that he is hearing only what he wants to hear. Well, that sounds like a Darachne, or possibly that demon jello mold from Aurilu's lab. But either way, this bears further investigation. Vex cannot ignore the cries for help, and the party rushes toward the sound, frequently looking around for enemies or traps. A strange thing. The closer they get to the voice, the less distinct the pleas become, blurring into the grinding screech of a rusty mechanism. The only passage leading further into the barrow finishes in a dead end. A spacious cave, its walls decorated in frescoes that have almost entirely faded over time. Before the companions have a chance to decide whether to look for a door or turn back, the cave floor, which seemed solid with well-trodden ash, vibrates and begins to ripple like water. One after another, the commander's companions are sucked into the thick, ashy mass, like they have stepped into quicksand. Okay, well, even I know that if you squirm around in quicksand, you sink faster, so... The party stopped and assessed the situation. The party understands that panicking is pointless. Assessing the situation and formulating a plan of action is much more useful. When they stop struggling, they notice that the quick ash seems to loosen its grip and turn. Below, they can hear strange noises, like grinding metal. Could there be a mechanism drawing the quick ash downward? The exit from the cave is still too high up, and now the party have only one route out. Down. Interesting that they're still giving us other options, because they literally just told us the only way out is down. And who are we to argue with the narrator? Closing his eyes tight, the commander takes a deep breath and dives. The Quagmire's resistance vanishes as expected. The commander opens his eyes, sensing that he is in freefall. Through the gloom, he sees a spear sticking out parallel to the ground, and he manages to grab hold of the wood and hang suspended from it. Suddenly, everything jolts into action. Dozens of daggers, saws, swords, and spears spring out from all sides, whistling through the air. But this is no enemy ambush. The weapons are being brandished by the pistons and loudly scraping gears of a giant mechanism. The spear that saved the commander was so rusted in its piston that it is no longer able to move. The party has found itself in the heart of a giant metal flower, growing up out of the ashy quagmire covering the floor. The Uranag, built by the forges of the Abyss, tries to close its petals, crushing, mashing, and cutting its victims to pieces. But years of lying dormant in the darkness have taken their toll. Its articulations move with a soul-shuddering screech and become easily jammed. The mummified bodies of unlucky crusaders can still be seen, hanging speared on rusted blades. If the commander wants to avoid their fate, he must figure out what makes the metal flower move. Even a magical mechanism is still a mechanism. From above, the commander has a good view of the metal flower's inner workings. Large, toothed wheels are set into motion by gear shafts. It all becomes clear. If the gear shafts can be jammed, the movement will stop. The commander is almost out of time. Another few minutes and it will all be over. Realizing that a simple escape isn't possible, the commander decides to try jamming the metal flower's main mechanism. He looks around for something sturdy and finds the hammer. The head of the hammer would be large and made of metal. That would have the best chance of jamming the gears. The staff and the tower shield are larger, but they're also mostly made of wood, so I feel like those would break much more easily. He grabs for a hammer in the hands of a dead paladin. The body of a paladin, clutching a warhammer in his hands of bone, hangs from one of the metal flower's spears, pointing directly upward. The commander is lucky that this warrior chose to meet his death with weapon in hand. The commander drags the body towards him and grabs the hammer, but the Servant of Light's grip is still surprisingly strong, and refuses to relinquish the weapon. The bone arms are easily ripped from the skeleton's shoulders, still holding the hammer. The commander tosses the lot into the heart of the flower. The hammer falls, sparking off gears and getting stuck between them. With a furious screeching and scraping, the flower tries to grind up the hammer, but it cannot. A tremor travels up the petals. There is a deafening cracking sound, and the flower stills. Forever. After carefully extracting themselves from the clutches of the broken machine, the commander and his party find themselves up to their knees in ashy sludge once more. But this time it only harmlessly squelches under their feet as they walk. A dark breach yawns before them, and the cry the commander heard at the entrance to the barrow rises up again. Help me. Since there is no other route, the commander decides to... I didn't know these guys. We'll check the bodies, see if they left anything we can actually use. The commander searches the Crusaders' bodies. What the dead no longer need may prove useful to the living. Fortune smiles on him. The party will be leaving the Uranag's cave richer than when they went in. After all its ordeals, the party finally goes up to the surface and emerges in a small chamber. Pipes protrude from numerous openings, dotted all over the walls, and they connect to a small box adorned with Baphomet's symbol. The box cries out, producing high, plaintive noises that, when carried through the pipes, begin to sound something like, "Help me." The commander knows that this is just another demonic mechanism created to lure crusaders into the barrows. He smashes the box, scattering small bolts and gears across the room. Silence reigns. There are no secrets left in this place now. Fencer's gift. And a small handful of gold. Not too shabby. I was really hoping for a good fight or something, but that's certainly better than nothing. Fencer's gift. When dual-wielding or wielding a two-handed melee weapon, these gloves grant a +3 damage bonus to the second weapon. If the wearer has the weapon training ability and is wielding a weapon it gives a bonus to, the bonus increases by +2. Interesting. Kind of weirdly written, but that's actually very similar to the Gloves of Dueling. Yeah, see, the Gloves of Dueling also grant an extra +2 on weapon training, but instead of granting +3 damage on the offhand weapon, it grants +4 versus being disarmed, which, as useful as it is, has never come up in the main campaign. It only came up in the side campaign with the gelatinous cubes. So, I feel like we'd be better off with that extra damage. Yeah, the weapon training effect is identical. So that's a decent step up, practically speaking. The only real downside being that these gloves look a little sillier than the other ones. But, as always, I'm willing to sacrifice fashion if it means an actual, tangible improvement to our combat performance. Alright, let's go grab this knapsack out of this tree, and then we'll teleport back to Dresden. Sorry, it feels kind of surreal to be doing something so mundane after all these increasingly absurd adventures we've been on. And back we go. Hi, Seelah. You're looking pretty slick today. Seelah seems to be in a good mood. She smiles at you and then scratches the back of her head, as if suddenly realizing something. I probably shouldn't have come to you officially, like an audience, but this is the only way to catch you these days. I wanted to ask, would you like to go shopping with me? It's probably not right to distract the Knight Commander with such trifles, but I thought I should drag you out for a walk. We haven't enjoyed a moment's peace since we met. We've either been saving Canabris or marching on Dresden. Besides, I desperately need advice. I'm going to buy a present, and I know nothing about fancy jewelry. Why, didn't you think I do? Well, who's the present for? For Alon and his bride. After that story at the camp when Curl stole the ring from us and summoned the demons, Alon and I both overreacted and said some things we shouldn't have. He apologized to me, but I haven't really apologized to him. I want to buy a ring to replace the one that was stolen. And there's a new jewelry shop in Dresden. It's owned by Sunhammer, the same jeweler who made the first ring. Sure, why not? I wouldn't mind stretching my legs a bit. You wouldn't believe how little I actually end up using them these days. Great. Well, then I'll meet you at the jewelry shop. It's in the east of the city. Okie dokie. Might as well check in with everyone else while we're here. Nope, nothing. Actually, this might be quicker. Yeah, that put us right next to it. Fantastic. Do my eyes deceive me? The victorious Knight Commander himself has paid a visit to my shop? Such an honor, such an honor! A dignified dwarf in a luxurious, beautifully adorned garment bows to you, before turning to Seelah. You are most welcome as well, Iomede's faithful. It is a pleasure to see so many brave crusaders within these walls. I am Derek Sunhammer, the jeweler. This shop is one of many that I own. Ah, Master Derek himself? I heard the only place one is likely to bump into you is at a royal reception. Not at all. My wares are expensive, not least because I have to buy costly metals and gems, and also pay for the security of shops and workshops throughout Mendev and beyond its borders. My prices limit the circle of my clientele, but that doesn't mean I myself shun all those not in possession of a noble title. Master Derek gives you a warm smile. I must say again, I am very glad to see you here. Yeah, great to meet you too. I've got to ask, why open a high-end jewelry shop in the middle of a war zone? There are two sides to me, if I can put it that way. I am both a merchant and an artist. For the artist in me, the crusade is a limitless source of inspiration. In recent years, I have crafted very few delicate items, plant and flower patterns, you know. My current preference is for heavier, larger jewelry. Dark metal, expressive gems, and cool colors. Everything that reminds me of steel armor, the calming weight of a shield in your hand, the clash of weapons. But the merchant in me sees something else in Dresden. A risky but potentially fruitful new market. If you succeed in your noble cause and defeat, or at least push back the demons, the city will thrive, and whoever is first to make a splash here will reap the rewards. Those are my motives, inspiration and greed in equal measure. Master Derek makes a helpless gesture. You know what? I can respect that. Sorry, Seelah, you wanted to talk to Derek about something? You have my full attention. The dwarf strokes his beard. It's simple, Master. You might remember that a while ago, Sir Elan of the Houndhearts ordered a ring from you. A silvery ring with a blue-green gem. I would like to buy something similar, but I only have this much money. Seelah shows him her coin purse. And hey, you know what? If that's not enough, then I'll chip in too. Least I can do. Though this is more for Seelah than for Elan. Seelah's a friend. Come on, Vex. Seelah is embarrassed. I only invited you along for advice. I can handle the expenses myself. Oh, I would advise you not to reject the commander's help out of hand. With his participation, I can offer you something truly special that fits your description perfectly. A ring with a blue-green gem, just as you've described. This is one of my latest creations, and I'm very proud of it. Alas, your own funds, my dear, are only enough for my plainest ring, and the gem in it is not the right color. Well, here you go. Only the best for Vex and company. Seelah sends you a grateful look. Master Derek lowers his head respectfully and retrieves a box from the bag on his belt, opening it to reveal an exquisite ring with a glittering blue-green jewel. He lets the light play on the gem's facets, and then places the box in Seelah's hand. This is a special item, and I'm glad to see it go to someone as worthy as yourself. For how could the commander's friend be anything but? May it bring good fortune to its new owner. Now, if you'll excuse me, I don't usually make sales in my own shops. I have golems for that. Besides, I prefer spending my time at my workbench, not behind the counter. But I was glad to serve you, Commander, and your valiant companion. All the best. Well, that's that done. Seelah stows the ring box. Come with me to the barracks to give the ring to Alon, will you? After that, we can go to the tavern and have a few drinks. Sure, yeah, that sounds great. So are you, happy with your purchase? Well, yeah. The truth is, I just needed a reason to talk to him and show that I want us to patch things up. I'm not great at this friendship stuff, but I'm trying. That's the most anyone can ask for. Come on, let's go. Just, gliding along, I see. Yeah, walking's hard after all that riding. I get it. Seelah, Knight Commander. Alon seems slightly discomfited. Good to see you. Is it? Are you sure? Not this again. Well, to avoid a drawn-out conversation, I'll just get to the point. I got you a gift. It's, well, a ring. To replace the one Curl stole. Oh, Seelah. Thank you so much. But you shouldn't have. I've already apologized to you for how I behaved back at the camp. And I'll say it again. I don't blame you for anything. We fought shoulder to shoulder here in Dresden. Can't we just let bygones be bygones? Sure we can. But take the present. Your wedding is right around the corner. Seelah puts the ring in the knight's hand. So Alon, I've got to ask. Do you still have problems with working for me and my mysterious power? You know, now that I'm actually winning this crusade for you? The knight endures your look and answers smoothly. Yes, Commander, I still have my doubts. I'm just a warrior. I have faith in the gods' will, but I'm used to relying on things I can understand, things I know. An honest sword, a prayer passed down through the generations. Don't take it as a sign of disrespect. It would be more disrespectful to lie to your face. Okay, yeah, you know what? I respect that. So did you hear we found Jana? Turns out she got grabbed by a bunch of demons. But we got her out. So I heard, and I'm not surprised. She didn't just let us down, she let herself down, too. Right, yeah, So, getting married, huh? That you're still going through with that? When's the date? Very soon. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. It would be a tremendous honor if you would come to my wedding. We're going to hold it not far from the walls of Dresden, to the east, toward the river. Seelah's already been invited, now I'm asking you. You showed me so much kindness when you helped me look for that ill-fated ring. I simply must repay you somehow. Besides, Kiana would simply love to meet you, and I can't deny her anything. This is great. Say you'll go, Vex. We'll have so much fun. I'm sorry, you do understand we're in the middle of the world wound, right? We chose a place that is still within range of the holy power of the Sword of Valor. My fellow Houndhearts will be there, and Kiana and her friends know how to handle themselves. Of course, the location is not entirely risk-free. Nowhere in the world wound is. But it's as protected as it can be. And the territory has been much calmer since your victory. Okay, I mean, I guess it sounds like you've thought this out. Sure, yeah, I'll be there. And me being there all but guarantees that nothing will happen. Thank you, Commander. And you, Seelah, for the gift. So long, my friend. Seelah turns to you. Thank you for coming for a walk with me. It's nice to take a breather between fights sometimes. I hope we have a good time at the wedding. All these battles and divine powers. We need to make sure we don't lose touch with ordinary life. Hey, there he is. About time you showed up, Kaz. My legs are getting tired. That said, we are past time, so I think we're just about ready to wrap this up. Let's do a quick follow-up with Seelah, and then we'll call it. Oh, and as a quick aside, I am just now realizing that these guys marked as bribe takers. That's because we went with that bribery project. Which is interesting because it implies there will eventually be some sort of ramifications for that decision. So, you know, that's something to look forward to. And nothing new from Seelah, so I guess we're done. Like I said, this feels like a good place to call it. Especially since I'll need to level up Seelah and Risk before we actually head to that wedding. They've fallen, I think, like 5 levels behind at this point. We'll hit the pause button for now. I'll get that taken care of off screen and, you know, do the usual bookkeeping, hit the shops, take care of those reinforcements. And we will pick up here next time as we settle in for a wedding episode. There's always got to be one. Though we do still have a few other companion quests in the wings. Those should be popping up any time now. I think Ember, Cam, not to mention that new companion, the one being introduced in the last Sarkorians DLC. That drops in like 2 weeks. See you next time. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Dragon Matrix 7, Mathew Smith, Revenant, Alois, Drakiith, EreV23, EgonAlter, Emile, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you can even check out the Patreon, the PayPal, or even the Nexus GG page. Links are in the description.
It's all do as I say, not as I do, Wiljiff, with you lot.